Welcome to Aspire Johnson County's podcast, the Johnson County Business Insider, where you hear storytelling, interviews, and conversations spotlighting the people, projects, and policies driving growth across Johnson County, Indiana. From this, you'll gain insights into business, workforce, public policy, and community development in our region. We're excited to share that the Johnson County Business Insider podcast is presented in 2026 by Citizens Bank.
This podcast is brought to you by Citizens Bank. Citizens Bank, serving South Central Indiana since 1931. Building strong communities one relationship at a time. Learn more at citizens-banking.com.
The Johnson County Business Insider podcast is also brought to you by KJ&J Wealth.
And today I'm joined by Jean Rank, Government and Community Relations Manager at Duke Energy, Indiana, and John Sturm, CEO of Johnson County REMC. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining me for this powerful podcast. Jean, let's start with you. Please tell the audience a little bit about your organization, your role, and the communities you serve.
Sure. My name is Jean Rank. I'm the Government Community Relations Manager for Duke Energy, Indiana. I am one of a team of 9 Government and Community Relations Managers around the 69-county Duke Energy, Indiana territory, and my role is to serve as a liaison between our company and our communities. I serve 5 counties on behalf of Duke Energy: Hendricks, Morgan, Johnson, Hancock, and Shelby counties. Again, my role is to be a point of contact for our communities and our stakeholders. Duke Energy is the largest electric provider in Indiana. We are part of a corporate structure out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Duke Energy is in 6 states, Indiana being one of them. But in Indiana, Duke Energy serves about a 23,000 square mile service territory, which equates to over 928,000 customers. We have 38,000 miles of transmission and distribution lines within our service territory, and we have about 2,400 employees around the state.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for being here again. John, please tell us your role and company.
Yeah, my name is John Sturm, and I'm the CEO of Johnson County REMC. We also have a subsidiary, JC Fiber, that I am president of, and we provide broadband and telecommunication. Johnson County REMC is responsible for 30,000 customers, and we provide them with safe, reliable, and affordable electricity. As CEO, I am responsible for overseeing the acquisition, procurement of power supply, arranging for transmission of grid power to our distribution company, and of course, distribution services.
Great. Wonderful. And also, thank you for joining us. Jean, I'm going to start with you for the first question your way. What is driving today's growth in energy demand locally and regionally?
So that answer is pretty simple. It's manufacturing in Indiana. Manufacturing is still the backbone of Indiana's economy, but it looks very different than what it has in the past with the increased use of automation in the manufacturing processes, which has ultimately increase the need for more electricity needs in those areas. But we're also seeing increased utilization in our residential areas as well. The aspect of automation in our lives in general increases our need for electricity, and so that results in a need for additional generation. Duke Energy, different from JCREMC, is also a generator. We have several generation plants within Indiana. And since 2013, we've added 135,000 new customers just to our Indiana service territory, which demonstrates the growth in our economy, not only in the business side, but also in the residential side.
John, how are utilities planning to meet increasing demand from housing, commercial growth, and industrial development?
Yeah, every utility plans a little bit differently. Duke Energy is going to have a different approach than us, but we all have to plan and forecast. We're all going to need additional electricity, capacity, energy generation, and we all take a different portfolio approach. It's very similar to investing. We all diversify in the resources with different fossil fuels, renewables. In our case, we're doing a lot of distributed generation projects because we're a little bit smaller and don't have the funding to participate in large-scale generation. So we all do things a little different, but we all have to arrive at the end game of having enough capacity and energy to serve our customer needs.
Yeah, so that's being ready. And what does being ready look like today in terms of capacity, reliability, and timing?
Well, I think being ready is just knowing the range of possible outcomes. We have a lot of areas that could have some industrial growth, and that could provide some huge demand on our systems, particularly if you entertain data centers and things like that. We have a lot of steady growth with residential, but being ready is knowing all the possible outcomes, closely working with customers, our transmission providers, regulators, and our board to be prepared for whatever demand needs to be met. So we do a lot of scenario analysis and a lot of planning and forecasting.
Yeah. And Jean, how are these investments typically funded, and what should customers and communities understand about that process?
So I'm going to back up just a little bit and differentiate Duke Energy from JCREMC because our business structures are different. Duke Energy is an investor-owned utility. We are one of 5 within the state. And what that means is we have a regulatory compact with the state of Indiana to provide services within a determined service territory with the expectation of a reasonable return on investment back to our company to provide those services. With that compact comes a regulated designation. We are regulated by the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission. So that regulatory compact is monitored, if you will, by the IURC. This investment structure from our investors allows us to provide upfront funding for our investments. There's a term in the utility industry called regulatory lag. And what that means is both of our companies are constantly investing in our system to provide safe, reliable, and affordable energy. But we're not always able to immediately put those costs into the rate base. So it does have a impediment to a business to provide those upfront investment costs. With an investment structure and investors behind Duke Energy, we are able to provide that upfront cost on those infrastructure investments, if you will. And that infrastructure is then updated. Those pieces that benefit the entire customer base are then eventually incorporated into our rate structure. But there's a lag in that time. So those investors help us to fill that gap, if you will. However, customers that are coming online that require infrastructure that only impacts them are solely responsible by the customer. They pay for those investments. If those improvements benefit the entire customer base, they are then incorporated into the base rate structure eventually. So even as we add new generation and make investments in strengthening the grid, we do remain laser focused on affordability. That is critical to what we do. And rates pay for the primary cost to produce and deliver electricity. From the power plants and the fuel that we use that runs to the electric grid of wires and substations, rates pay for that infrastructure. And there are significant maintenance costs in addition to just the construction cost. Such as trimming trees. Vegetation management is very important to our industry. Vegetation is the number one cause of outages in storms and other wind-related, really, scenarios. And we have 23,000 lines that we've got to maintain. So that's a significant maintenance cost to us. But also, like other businesses within Indiana, we've also been affected by rising costs. For instance, the price of transformers rose by 100% since 2020. Transformers are critical to delivering power. And transmission and distribution pole costs have gone up more than 25% in the past 5 years. So all of that to say is our business is very expensive, but we have several mechanisms in play to not only invest in the grid, but also to recover costs.
Okay. And I'd like to have both of you chime in on this because you're talking about grid modification. We know there's a lot of focus on that, on infrastructure upgrades. What improvements are being prioritized right now?
Oh, for grid modernization, I think a couple things. One, we try to bury as many lines as we can because that provides for a more reliable service. Trees in lines cause outages and things above ground. You can't do that with everything, though. We're working on a lot of automated switching, whereby if we have an outage on one substation, it can be fed from another substation automatically, so that reduces outage time. We're putting in a lot of battery storage at our distribution level to bolster the reliability so that we can do switching and have excess capacity at different substations. We always do a lot of preventative maintenance. So we've always had a record of going out and testing poles, looking at all of our lines and infrastructures and, flying lines and things with drones to make sure that we capture outage potential equipment that could cause outages before it happens. Modernization and investing in infrastructure is an ongoing thing. And as Jean pointed out, it's becoming more and more expensive every day with the cost of equipment.
Yeah. Anything to add, Jean?
Yes, only because, again, a differentiator between John and my companies is that Duke Energy is also a generator. We've already outlined the need for additional capacity on the grid because we are growing, not just in Indiana, but throughout the nation. And Duke Energy Corporate is investing $103 billion over the next 5 years in our grid structure. This is a significant investment that trickles down very specifically to Indiana in that we're investing $5 billion in our Cayuga generation station in Vermilion County. We are retrofitting, essentially, one of our oldest coal-fired power plants on our Indiana system, which will add 470 megawatts of additional power to the grid for a total of 1,500 megawatts out of that station. That's about enough power to power 1 million additional homes in Indiana. So it is a significant addition to our power grid that we're very proud of, which will, again, enable us to provide additional capacity for power as our needs grow.
And John, how does new technology help utilities operate more efficiently and respond faster to outages or disruptions?
Yeah, some of the things I already mentioned about the auto switching. We have a very nice distribution system whereby all of our load can be transferred automatically and just fed from another direction. So that really improves our reliability compared to the field out there. And I think something that's really exciting that's just coming around now is increased use of AI to help do more predictive analytics on outages and equipment that's potentially going to fail. So we're starting to really dig into that to improve reliability. And we always spend a lot of money on tree trimming because those overhead lines that we do have, we got to keep the trees out of them because that's the primary, that and squirrels are the primary reasons for outages. And I like to hear that, Duke is investing in generation and also transmission because we're what you call a transmission-dependent utility. We don't have transmission lines. We rent them, lease them, essentially, from Duke Energy. So the stronger and the more reliable their transmission is, the more reliable our power supply is because when transmission goes down, we go down.
John and I often hear that there's a misperception that we're competitors, and we are not. We are true partners on delivering utility or electricity in Indiana and in Johnson County in particular.
Okay, great. That's good to know. Cybersecurity remains a concern for infrastructure, for critical infrastructure. What steps are being taken to protect utility systems and maintain service reliability? Why don't we start with you, John?
Yeah, continued vigilance. There's just bad people trying to shut you down. So we have a team of people that watch that daily. And we have to do routine software upgrades, something called installing patches as our software vendors find penetration points to try to compromise your systems. They do these patches and upgrades for us. So you've got to stay on that. And believe it or not, staff training is a big one because things can be introduced in viruses, and ransomware can be introduced into your company through emails. So we constantly train our staff to be ready. And one thing that's not really cybersecurity, but physical security is very important too, because if somebody wants to do something bad to a piece of equipment, they can do that. So we have a lot of cameras and alarms on key equipment, substations, things like that. Work with local authorities to do drive-bys when they can. If they're in the area, drive by these pieces of equipment and just have a presence.
Yeah. Keep their eyes open for it.
Keep your eyes open.
Yeah. How are trends like electrification, EV adoption, and new business uses changing demand patterns?
It's a very simple answer. It's impacting generation and the need for additional capacity. It's what it's come down to.
Okay.
And I'd like to offer a little bit to that too. I think, beneficial electrification, EV adoption, it changes the way that people use their electricity, but they just use more of it. And what we're trying to focus on is making sure that they use it at the right time. And we have programs that we offer to incentivize customers to shift their usage from high-cost periods to low-cost periods so that we can operate more efficiently. And Gene would know with their generation mix, I mean, you have to turn on peaking units that are high cost if we have a lot of demand all at the same time. And when you smooth that out, you operate more efficiently. And I'm sure we're both interested in operating more efficiently. So
those incentives you offer, are they mainly for commercial customers, or are there incentives for residential customers?
Yeah,
as well?
we have incentives for all classes.
Okay.
And basically it comes down to this. If you can help us save money, we give you a lot of that money back.
There we go.
And we all save. As a nonprofit utility, we're not interested in making money. We're interested in saving money for our customers.
Okay.
And for Duke Energy, we have a lot of the same, it's very similar programs for all classes of our customers. Our website is just a vast vault of information, but we'll also come to your business and do an energy audit and help you to identify sources of additional cost on your utility bills. So we do want to empower our customers to use less or in a more efficient manner.
Okay. What should developers and employers be thinking about now to avoid constraints or delays in the future? Start with you, John.
Well, it depends on how large their demand is. And if you have a significant demand, and for us, that could be 5 to 10 megawatts or more, they need to plan ahead because we have to have substation capacity, we have to have transmission capacity, and we have to have generating capacity to meet that. Generally, if it's in that 5 to 10 megawatt range, if it's in a location where we don't have the substation capacity, it could take 1 to 3 years to plan. If it's a data center that needs 1,000 megawatts, it could take 3 years to plan plus additional time to build the generation and transmission needed. So the bottom line is know what you need as a customer, plan ahead, communicate early and often with your utility, and be prepared to, wait if you have a huge demand need.
So, Jean, looking ahead, how does Duke Energy balance the energy demands we are seeing today with long-term forecasts for growth and reliability?
So, as I mentioned, as a regulated utility, we are required by the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission to update our 20-year integrated resource plan at least every 3 years. So we are constantly looking at our current load and down the pike of what is needed in collaboration with teams such as economic development. We have a full economic development team that works hand in hand with the locals, including Aspire Johnson County, to prepare for expansion of business and also new business. And that is included in our always evolving resource development plan that we're required to update. The IRP, as we call it, is a roadmap for transitioning to cleaner energy without compromising our core values, right? Reliability of service, energy, affordability, or the power demands of a growing region. And again, we take those plans very seriously. We look at both 20 years and in 3-year increments to be sure that we have the capacity available to serve our customers.
So, John, what are the biggest challenges utilities are planning for over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I think we're all challenged with demand outpacing supply. Demand can be added quicker than generation supply because there's a lot of regulatory hurdles and so forth to put new power plants out there. So really, that's the biggest challenge is to survive through any kind of capacity shortage. I think that the market and the utilities and all those parties interested in that are doing a pretty good job to date. But with all the data centers and onshoring of new manufacturers coming back to the states, the generation additions are just going to somehow have to keep pace.
Yeah. So what gives you guys the confidence that the region can continue to grow sustainably?
So I feel very good about the partnerships we have in place, not only within the county, within each municipality, but within the region. From a regional standpoint, the Indy Partnership Team, which is the regional economic development organization, brings deep market knowledge and strong site selector relationships and a data-driven approach to recruitment and, again, retention, expansion of jobs. They're very intentional about the industries they pursue and how they position our region competitively on a national and a global stage, really. And at a local level, more specifically, the work that Aspire Johnson County does complements that work very nicely. It is truly a hand-in-glove relationship to move our region, Central Indiana, forward. Aspire knows the communities very well. They know the assets, they know the constraints, and they're collaborative, working together with local leaders to ensure that the growth aligns with the community priorities. And this is really critical between both regional and local teams on long-term sustainable development. And this gives me really good, really strong confidence that the region is going to continue to grow in a thoughtful manner.
Yeah. John, what would you like to add?
Well, you addressed the demand side and working together to make sure we know what that demand's going to do. And I think I'll focus a little bit on the supply side because we have to have that generation to supply that sustainable growth. And I'm cautiously optimistic. There's been broad reforms from a regulatory standpoint, both at the federal and the state and local levels, so that we can get generation of electricity built to meet these demands. All the parties working together, as Jean mentioned. But, again, optimistic, cautiously optimistic. We're seeing, regulators, the governor's office, the utilities, and even our transmission reliability group called MISO working together to expedite the addition of generation. And I think that that's necessary and something that we got to keep our eyes on, as well as building the transmission to supply the generation to the distribution of our electricity.
Right. Closing question. Start with you, John. Then, Jean, I'd like for you to chime in as well. What is one key takeaway you want business leaders listening to remember?
I'm going to cheat and tell you two. So
right.
If you have new load requirements, plan ahead. Keep in contact with the utility early and often and know what your demand is going to be. I know that's hard for them to do from time to time, but the more you know, the more that you can tell us what you need, the more quickly we can respond to that. And the other part of it is whether you have existing or new load requirements, if you can modify your load, we can work with our customers to save you money on those load modifications because we're a small, tight utility. We're very close to the customers, and we've got ways for you to save money.
All right. And Jean?
So all of the above, what John just said, but also both of our companies are hyper-focused on ensuring that the grid has capacity and that we are providing power to all of our customers in a safe and reliable and as affordable as possible manner. It's really what we're again hyper-focused on. The state of Indiana, the U.S., the nation doesn't work without electricity, and we recognize our responsibility in this area.
Yeah. All right. Well, great insights. Very energetic conversation today. So thank you both, John, Jean, for being here with us to talk about this topic and educate our audience.
This podcast is brought to you by Citizens Bank. Citizens Bank, serving South Central Indiana since 1931. Building strong communities one relationship at a time. Learn more at citizens-banking.com.